All right, these are my predictions for the top 6 Rookie of the Year at the end of the 2023-2024 NHL season. Take this with a grain of salt. We're just over halfway through. Some of this warrants discussion and explanation. But number one, so keep in mind, Connor Bedard currently is the front runner. 39 games played, 15 goals, 18 assists, 33 points. He's a minus 22 on a really bad Blackhawks team. Time on ice, just over 19 minutes. Just about 40% in the face-off dot. If he plays a full 82 games, he probably wins the Calder Rookie of the Year trophy. He broke his jaw. He's out 6 to 8 weeks. He is skating. We'll probably see a similar timeline with him, like what happened with Boone Jenner of the Columbus Blue Jackets. So with him missing games, I think that puts Brock Faber in that number one position. Now, Brock Faber comes into the league as a defensive defenseman. Came in playing elite defense, starting off with 2 regular season games last year, and in the first round of the Minnesota Wild's playoff run, first round. Last year, he played exceptionally well against the Stars. He's carried that over into this year, taking that number one defenseman spot on the Wild over some pretty tough competition. Spurgeon, who is also out for the year now, and Brodin, who he played with a little bit last night. Sometimes he'll play with Middleton, but Faber's the guy getting the minutes, getting those defensive face-offs. 46 games played, 3 goals, 24 assists, 27 points. He leads all rookies in assists. He is a +5 on a sub-500 team, which is impressive. His average time on ice, 24 minutes and 43 seconds. We see that grow a couple seconds every game he plays, roughly. Faber is someone who a lot of offense wasn't expected from this guy. There was a little bit of offense there, but nothing crazy. He's never quarterback a power play in college. He is the number one power play quarterback. I'm mixing up my words. In Minnesota right now, especially with Spurgeon out for the year, he should have that spot. He has 7 points in his last 5 games. Again, very solid defensively, minutes eater. This is the complete package. He's getting comparisons to a Charlie McAvoy, and so on. I think Faber's power play came a little more naturally than McAvoy's did. For example, McAvoy needed a few years of work, and he's good at it now. He's very good, but Faber, it's a little more natural with him. I still think Connor Bedard plays enough games and gets enough points to finish second on this list, though. There is a chance, he'll play, or he might hit 25, 30 goals this year when he comes back. Again, the minus 22. His defensive play it needs work, and that's understandable. Oftentimes, like scoring points and putting the puck in the net and getting assists, that's kind of what gets you paid and noticed by NHL scouts. Thus, the Connor Bedard being drafted over 1 overall. He's incredibly elite offensively. Not a whole lot of help with his team and line mates and defensive core in that club. So again, regardless of Bedard's defensive abilities, the team as a whole isn't quite strong defensively, which helps lead to this minus number. So I think it's tough to get an evaluation of a player's defensive ability when the whole team is just bad in their own zone. So I take that with a grain of salt. 40% in the face-off dot, though, is noticeable. Moving on to number 3. Again, this is the end of the season. I have Marco Rossi of the Minnesota Wild, thus the Minnesota gear. Rossi bumped up to that first line, playing with Kaprizov, who finally looks healthy. He's scoring at a ridiculous rate lately. I think he was the number 1 star of the NHL this week. This is the Kaprizov we haven't seen all year and last year from that Logan Stanley hit against the Winnipeg Jets. He's come back. He's looking like good old Kaprizov. Rossi on the line with him will get points. Anyone on the line with Kaprizov will get points as a result. Rossi, 46 games this year, and Rossi's played up and down the lineup. 13 goals, 14 assists, 27 points. He's a +2 again to Faber and Rossi, two of the only players on, not the only two, but pretty close, the only 2 players on the Minnesota Wild to have a plus next to their name. Again, sub 500 team. I think they're even with that win, they're in like 6th or 7th to last place in the NHL. Like it's not they don't have a very competitive team at the moment. They might miss the playoffs. We'll see. That's a whole analysis for later. But the +2 is impressive. Time on ice 1641. He is 43.6% in the faceoff dot, which is higher than Bedard. Rossi has really grown into this 200-foot complete player, and it's impressive. The face-off percentage is a little higher than Bedard. Rossi's a couple years older. Doesn't really matter. Your age doesn't matter in the Calder race. But Rossi's defense has substantially grown. He plays defense. It's pretty solid defense. His face-off percentage has significantly increased the past few games. So I think he, playing on the line with Kaprizov for the rest of the season, which is probably where we should see him. At lowest, it should be the second line with Matt Boldy, but we'll see. Right? So, this is a guy that will probably get maybe 55, maybe push 60 if he's lucky points. 60 might be pushing it, considering his production so far. He's known as a playmaker and assist guy, but he has 13 goals because he's getting to those gritty areas and getting in front of the net, and he's really evolved his game a bit to suit the Minnesota Wild, and that speaks volumes. But I have Rossi this high because he is that complete 200-foot player. He is very good defensively. He's not elite, but he's probably I don't know. Zari's pretty good defensively too, but one of the best rookie offense or defensive forwards we've seen in a few years. Next, I have Fantilli, and these guys are very comparable in terms of their stats. I don't think Fantilli's all that bad defensively either, but the caliber of players Marco Rossi should be playing with moving forward is going to be higher than Fantilli. Rossi will also play an elevated role, most likely on that first line, whereas Fantilli likely slots into that second line. Fantilli, 45 games, 11 goals, 14 assists, 25 points, minus 18 on a really bad Blue Jackets team. They're about the same. I think they're tied in the standings, or they were tied before yesterday's game, in the standings with the Minnesota Wild. Time on ice, 1549. Playing second line minutes, 43.7% in the faceoff dot, which is pretty solid for an 18-year-old rookie. That's not a bad number to have. So you got to give him credit there. Again, very good 200-foot player. But I think Rossi is going to garner a few more points than Fantilli because of the position he should be in for the rest of the season versus Fantilli. Honestly, I think Fantilli has a brighter upside as a career. And remember, this is just the Rookie of the Year competition. It's really meaningless at the end of the day. It doesn't dictate who the better player will be overall or is overall. Some of it's a bit of a popularity contest. This is just my projection for what the NHL will do. I probably wouldn't have Bedard that high after missing so many games. But nonetheless, we're moving on to number 5, and I got Luke Hughes. 44 games played, 8 goals, 16 assists, 24 points. He is a -7 on a New Jersey Devils team that is looking to climb back into the playoffs. The average time on ice, 20 minutes, 27 seconds. Second-ish pairing defenseman with power. He's a power play quarterback over there, especially with Dougie Hamilton out. Now, his offensive production is lower than Brock Faber. His plus-minus is lower than Brock Faber. And Brock Faber's on a much worse team. Okay, so just offensively comparing defensive stats, Faber is overall better. Now, defensively, Luke Hughes is rough. It's rough to watch him in the own zone. I'm just throwing it out there. Hughes is purely an offensive defenseman, and he's an incredible skater, got an incredible shot, got very good vision, right? He can pass the puck well. Like, he does a lot of things at an elite level, or at least close to an elite level. He will be an incredible player in the NHL, but he needs to work on that defensive game right now. I don't know if I've seen somebody worse in their own defensive zone than I have Luke Hughes. But again, playing offense is playing defense, so also keep that in mind too. So I have Luke Hughes down here. He's offensively, he's not doing quite as well as a defensive defenseman first. Right, and that's not a knock on Luke Hughes. Brock Faber is just having that incredible of a year. But Luke Hughes, when you compare rookie to rookie, I think is below Fantilli. And if you're going to put him below Fantilli, Rossi, about interchangeable. Bedard is the current favorite at the halfway point, even with 7 less games played than Faber and Rossi to be the Calder champion. Right? So you got to keep in mind his competition. He's not a bad player. He will be a very good player. I don't want to say he's going to be awful or isn't deserving of being in the top 3 competition because it's only halfway through the season or just over. We could see some things change, right? We don't know. But he really needs to work on his defense a bit. It's kind of tough to watch some games. And I just want to clarify. I have watched Luke Hughes a lot the past, I don't know, month and a half, 2 months. He's very good on the power play, but again, there have been a lot of goals against where he's kind of left his defensive partner high and dry. A lot of 2-on-1s with whoever he's playing with. So I do want to preface this by saying this isn't like unwarranted or unfounded. We saw the same struggles with Quinn Hughes when he came into the league, and he's the Norris favorite right now. So just a little comparison there. I do watch a lot of Luke Hughes, and this kid is going to be elite. Especially if he works on his defensive game, like he will be in the Norris competition with his brother Quinn. There's no doubt about it. Number 6, Connor Zary. Connor Zary cooled down quite a bit. Still not playing bad. He is a natural center. He's playing on the wing in Calgary. 36 games played, 9 goals, 13 assists, 22 points. It's like a .61 points per game ratio. He's a plus 14, which is impressive for a middling team trying to vie for a wild card spot. I don't think they're in the wild card at the moment. I haven't checked standings today, so last night's games, I'm not entirely sure how that's affected the standings so far. So don't quote me if the Calgary Flames are sitting in that wild card 2 spot. Regardless, 15.25 average time on ice, 27.8% in the face-off dot. Again, playing more as a winger this year. Playing a 200-foot game, which is nice to see. That plus 14 on a middling team doesn't usually come out of nowhere, especially for a rookie. So I think Connor Zary's been great. Again, a little bit of a down week or so, but I'm not worried about him. I think this is going to be a very good player. He's showing flashes of brilliance, and it's really encouraging. Flames fans got to be happy to have Zary playing this year and playing as well as he has. Again, 36 games, so you're already 10 less games than Faber Rossi, 9 less than Fantilli, 8 less than Hughes. So he's not going to have a full 82-game schedule. If he plays every single game from here on out, we're talking like 73-ish games or so. Right? And that means your overall point total will be down, which means your overall ranking in the Rookie of the Year competition will be down a bit. But again, defensive ability is pretty solid for a rookie forward. So that's my top 6. I did a top 10 before. It turned into a long, messy video. There are notables that aren't on this board, and I want to give a special shout out to Leo Carlson because that dude has been battling injuries. But man, that is a franchise #1 center right there. Watch out. Ducks should be very happy with Leo Carlson so far. And McTavish is putting up pretty good production this year too on a very bad Anaheim Ducks team. So they got some solid center depth over there. Juracek of the Blue Jackets, I'm just going to name a few players off. I think has played incredible defensive hockey this year. I really like Juracek. His offensive game will come. You can see his skating. You can see flashes. Hasn't quite been there on the scoreboard just yet. I think that will come, but usually the defense takes longer to learn. So Juracek, I'm really excited about his future. Nemec, I think, defensively hasn't played quite as well as Juracek, but Nemec defensively has also played pretty well. Still sitting at a -4, but he's working on it. And Nemec has a little more offensive flair, which it's fun to see. Really big fan of Nemec in New Jersey as well. New Jersey with 2 rookie defensemen this year who are playing pretty well. Who else do we got? Matthew Nyes, bit of a disappointing year so far. 43 games played, 8 goals, 9 assists. where is he? 17 points. He's a +2. I think there was a lot of hope that he would play on a number 1 or 2 line and put up maybe 50, 60 points this year. It doesn't look like he'll hit that. I don't have him on this board for that reason. Tyson Forrester's played very well. Played a very good 200-foot game as well. He's got some speed to his game in Philly. He's, Tyson Forrester. Who else we got? Evangelista of Nashville. There was a lot of praise about this kid coming into this year, and rightfully so. He's a very talented young kid. The offensive production is there, but it's not here. I think he has 21 points this year, which is one less than Connor Zary. He's played pretty solid hockey overall. Mintyukov of Anaheim, defenseman. Pretty offensively. I think he needs a little work defensively, but you can see the foundation is there to grow on. I want to give a shout out to him as well. But I think if you're talking about defenseman and forward, well, you have 4 forwards, 2 defensemen in the top 6, which is about right. And I think where it's Faber and Luke Hughes, I don't think Mintyukov will garner much or more interest than either of these guys. He should garner interest because he is a very solid player, but he will continue to grow and get better. Who else we got? Logan Cooley. Logan Cooley, you can see he's going to be great, but he just scored his 4th goal. It took him a long time to score that 4th goal. He's a -11 on, I think they're a positive point. They're a positive points percentage team, the Arizona Coyotes. You'll want a little more from Logan Cooley. I don't think the transition from college to NHL has been as seamless as we expected. Nonetheless, you can see he's going to be just an absolute wagon of a player. So I'm not too worried about his production this year. I think he'll continue to grow, and that wouldn't surprise me. We have Matthew Poitras of the Bruins. Again, might finish the season at about a half point per game. I don't know, but he's also played. I think he's played the 3rd least of all rookies this year. The 2 below him are Leo Carlson and Cole Gutman. Right. Oh, no. My apologies. I missed a couple. Nemec and Malinsky. So, there's that too. Of the top 30 rookies in terms of points. So, there's also that. He needs to stay healthy. He needs to stay on the ice. He got off to a really hot start and has cooled down quite a bit. Very good 200-foot center. Again, young rookie. There will still be things to work on, but Matthew Poitras in Boston. Pleasant surprise for Bruins fans. I'm a Bruins fan. Pleasant surprise for me. Voronkov, I don't know why I didn't mention his name earlier. Having an incredible season in a very limited role. I don't even know who the Blue Jackets coach is. I keep forgetting his name. But I do not trust him to manage these young players. And I don't even care what the Blue Jackets do. Like, they could be good, they could be bad, like, whatever. I could care less. It'd be nice to see them go on a Stanley Cup run. It'd be nice to see them get the 1st overall pick, like, whatever. Right? But you got Fantilli playing in a limited role, kind of switching between that center and right wing. You have Voronkov, who's having a pretty solid season in a very limited role. Right? He's averaging 18 average time on ice, 22 points. But because of that limitation in his role with the team, I don't think he's going to garner many more points than I don't think he's going to garner more points than at the rate he has so far this season. So it's kind of tough. Some of these players, kind of in a tough position. Zach Benson having an okay year. Bobby Brink, I think, has played outstanding. I think there's a lot of potential offensively for this kid. He's got the defensive part of the game down. He's got a great shot. Only 7 goals so far, but I'm not too worried. Bobby Brink, pleasant surprise. Who else we got? Dorofeyev is there. He's doing all right. Who else? Pospisil, 33 games, 11 points, plus 9. Right? Am I looking at the right player? Yeah, Pospisil in Calgary. Did I miss anyone important? Mintyukov, Forrester, Nyes, Greggs, Zach Benson, Dorofeyev, Alex Lafreniere of the Kings. again, got off to a very good start. It hasn't done a whole lot since. LaFerriere of the Kings, 42 games played, 6 goals, 6 assists, 12 points. He's a -3. Where's his penalty minutes? 24 penalty minutes. I think he's kind of slid down to like a fourth line role. We'll occasionally see time on that third line, but at this point, bottom 6 forwards. Again, keep in mind these are still rookies. So I think that's about it. I think those are pretty much all the notable players. That's why I'm missing the I'm missing the goalies. So I don't think necessarily goalies will make the top 6. That's why I don't have them on the board. But you do have a guy like Joseph Woll in Toronto, 916 save percentage. The dude has played very well anytime he steps into the lineup. Every once in a while he'll have a game where it's like, oh, that was rough. But then he'll come back and just go on a tear. 916 save percentage by a rookie goaltender, pretty solid. He's not gonna play enough games to really garner interest in the rookie of the year conversation. Who knows? He might still be a rookie again next year. And shout out to Sam Urson of Philly. That dude has played well. Philly, solid 1A, 1B tandem with Carter Hart and Urson. Honestly, he was a decent prospect, decent goaltending prospect. But we thought Carter Hart would be the guy, and we were like, well, maybe Casey DeSmith gets starts. What kind of goes on? Urson has played very well. He's leading all rookie goaltenders in wins. He's leading all rookie goaltenders with 3 shutouts. You have a few other goalies that have shutouts. They all have 1. 3 times as many shutouts for Urson. Kachekov's played all right. I don't think he'll garner any interest in the rookie of the year, and I think he's hurt right now. I think he's on the IR. Hofer's played pretty well, but Hofer's playing behind a $6 million a year goaltender who's signed for the next, 4 years in Jordan Binnington. So Hofer might get a limited number of starts. We'll see. I like Hofer. Again, one of my favorite players in the league. So that's it. Special shout out to Urson, Joseph Woll in Toronto and Philadelphia. That's my list. Let me know what you think. Let me know who you agree with, who you disagree with. Obviously, this is just for fun. And this is for the end of the year. This is my projections. I don't know. Words are getting hard for me right now. I don't know why. But does your top 6, top 5, whatever you want to do, look differently? Where do you have Luke Hughes? I know this is very controversial. Some people have him very low. Some people have him, top 2, top 3. Do you have Faber winning it? Do you have Fantilli over Rossi? These are going to be tough. Rossi, Fantilli are going to be duking it out for who's higher up in the rookie of the year competition. All right, I can't speak. I appreciate you watching. Thank you. Let me know what you think. Take care. All right. Woo.